Hi everyone, this is Koinzell here. So we are going to do a Constellation comparison as well as Refinement comparison for Yelan today. In the three comps, Vape, Taser, and VapeEC. So C0, C6 will be based on having Aqua. R1 to R5 is also Aqua. I'll talk a little about, at least for Sacrificial Bowl in Vape, I'll talk a little about the C0, C1 value on Sacrificial Bowl so that you can make a more informed decision with respect to that. And yeah, so for each of the con, we'll do this, and we finally have a conclusion. We'll talk about all the constellations, talk about refinement, and Yelan video series. What's coming next, which is basically just the next the final video summary of all the math guides. Okay, so that's my intro. Now, this is the DPS figures that we have had from previously, updated through the weapon comparison. Now, this is the constellation values that you see. Obviously, for VVV, we should be looking at 4 emblem. Okay, I know there's a 50% here, but yeah, let's look at 4 emblem here. Okay, it's very high. If you have been following my math guides, you know that this is one of the highest. So like I said, instead of looking at the highest C1 boost, we will look at the best artifact build, which is 4 emblem over here. Okay, C1 on 4 emblem gives you approximately 34% boost in value, which is really high for a single constellation. In fact, it's higher than some C6 constellations. But like I said, it's very specific to VV Vape, where the extra E gives you so much value. It's practically insane, even with the extended rotation, based on my math. Even with the extended rotation, the additional actions from Yelan does give her that bit of a boost for Yelan's DPS. Now there may be some merit to talk about extending the rotation for Yelan's DPS. While it's good for Yelan's DPS, maybe it's bad for your main carry DPS. Again, that is very similar to whether or not to use allergy on Yelan. It boils down to your artifacts for Yelan versus your main. And to be honest, I don't think Yelan's DPS is that bad. I mean, based on the figure so far, she's only slightly lower than Ayato with Haran when she's using Aqua. So that's not too bad. And I can tell you, Ayato using a 4-star weapon versus Yelan using a 4-star weapon, Yelan would likely do even better. Because Sacrificial Bow is so close, right? Based on my math and my assumptions. Okay, so this is the reason why C1 has such a good value, specifically on Aqua, and I'll talk more about later about Sacrificial. Obviously, the value of C1 when you're using Sacrificial is not that big, because the difference from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 is very different. 1 to 2 is a lot better than 2 to 3. 2 to 3 is already reaching the stage of diminishing returns or overkill. So other than the C1, C2 and C4 are also really good. C2 is 23% here, 20% on C4. And C4, this C4 here, this 20% is just Yelan. I have not even considered the C4 effect on other HP scaling characters like Hu Tao here in my figures. Okay, C3 is okay, it's 10%, it's okay. While C5 is bad, but that's okay because all C5 are bad anyway, generally speaking. Since her E is not a major damage contributor per se in VVV, this is the reason why C5 is only 2%. Okay, but that being said, that 1.5 second with the additional E and the CA, if you look at my rotation, it's still doing better for Yelan's DPS. I have not had the chance to crunch numbers for the main carry, so I can't say whether it's bad or good in that aspect. But like I said, Yelan's DPS is not too bad. And again, it boils down to your artifacts. I mean, if your Yelan artifacts are bad, your Yelan talent levels are not as high as your carry, then obviously it's not worth using Sacrificial Bow for that. But if they are equally well built, then, you know, I believe that extending her rotation in Sacrificial is still good. Now, C6 also falls under a typical C6 value of 24%. Okay, which is to be expected when using an artifact build like 4 Emblem, right? Because 4 Emblem boosts your burst damage, but C6 is more about her doing 5 normal attacks that deal charge attack breakthrough bulk damage. The crazy thing though is the 176% boost from C0 C6. But I need to re-emphasize this for the nth time, this is specific to VV Vape's extreme ER requirement only. Because of the extreme requirement, our C0 figures are lower. So with a lower base, when you go from C0 to C6, it shows you that bit of a boost. Okay. Now for reference, Ayato C0 is 0 to C6 79%, Ito C0 to C6 81 to 86%, Yae C0 to C6 is 126%. So just from the above, it looks like C1 is a must get, but remember, Sacrificial Bow at C0 is only 1.7% behind Aqua. So C1 or R1 when using Sacrificial Bow is a no-brainer to go for C1, right? Because if you go for R1 Sacrificial Bow, you only get a 1.7% boost. It's not worth it. Okay, so in fact, I don't mind sharing, right? For these figures are based on Aqua. Okay, if you use Sacrificial Bow as a reference, I can tell you that Sacrificial Bow, because the C0 Sacrificial Bow is pretty good, and you get diminishing return getting that third E, right? Instead of going from 1 to 2, you go from 2 to 3. So what happens is that for Sacrificial Bow, your C0 C6 value is in fact 116%, 116%. And C1 and C2 here is 13% and 20%. So if you look at it, right, C1 is 13%, going from C1 to C2 when using Sacrificial Bow is a 20% boost, while R5 Sacrificial to R1 Aqua at C1 is 21%. R5 Sacrificial to R1 Aqua at C0, I've already said it, and it's here, it's only 1.7%. So it's a matter of, okay, this is more for dolphins, okay? So it's a matter of 20% versus 21%, whether to go for C2 or R1. So yeah. But remember, weapon banner gacha is worse, right? And for the same value, for sure, the Constellation is better. So if you're a dolphin, right, I would recommend C2 over R1 Aqua for the additional Heizou application too. Okay. Okay, so R1 to R5 for emblem is about 16 to 18%, as you can see here. Aqua's refinement from R1 to R5 is not that great. It's 16 to 18%, and for reference, Yae's Kagura is 16 to 17%, Ito's Red Horn is 18 to 20%, Ayato's Haran is 24 to 25%. So since the cost involved in R1 to R5 always makes R1 to R5 worse than C0 C6, given the high C0 C6 value in VapeEC, it's pretty clear which to go for. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. At least this helps you give you a view on how the constellations are like, which I guess is more helpful to dolphins and whales. Okay. Let's look at Taser next, and I can tell you Taser C0 C6 value will be lower because your ER requirement is lower, right? So let's look at Taser. As you can see, no, sorry, we should look at 2 HOD, 2 TOTM because it's Taser comp. It's actually not too bad. It's 159% at R1 Aqua. So C1's boost is lower than EVVV as expected, but it's still really good. It's about 28%, which is like a typical C6. You know what? Let me do this. Okay, let me do this. I want to make it clearer which figures to look at. Do not want people to be confused on this. Okay. Okay. So C2 is also very nice, it's at 19%. C3 is the same 10%, same as VVV. C4 has a lower value now, 6%, because with a lower ER, we have higher crit stats, so the impact of HP stat in relative comparison is lower. Because when your crit stats are not that high, then the total boost that you get from HP stat is better. C5 is still the worst constellation, but that's to be expected. C6 now gives you a whopping 43% boost due to 2 HOD, 2 TOTM plus higher crit stats with much lower ER. So that whole combination gives you such a value, 43 to 45, as opposed to the 24 to 25% with emblem in VVV. So C6 allows you to trigger more Yelan Q procs depending on whether you use it after the Q, and it's also additional CA. Sorry, what am I talking about? No. This is C6, right? So C6 is giving you 5x normal attack PP, so it will definitely allow you to trigger more Yelan Q procs, which is why the C6 figure here is higher. It's about 3 more props because her attack string is more than 2 seconds. Okay, it's not full 3 seconds, but it's more than 2 seconds. So C0 C6 is a very impressive 159%, especially considering even at C0 she's already performing very well, unlike in VV. Okay, because in the VV Vape, right, it is slightly lower, or rather it is lower. We have 17k and okay, let's talk about this 17.5k for emblem versus this 23k, so it's already 6k more, which is like what, 40 plus more at C0, the amount of the DPS that it does. Now, if you want to know the exact figures, then you have to refer to the Taser Math guide, because in the Taser Math guide, I'm pretty sure I compared the figures versus VVV. So again, for reference, Ayato C0 to C6 is 79%, Ito C0 C6 81 to 86%, Yaya C0 C6 126%, and 75% here is not freeze comp. Freeze comp is actually lower than this. This for Ayato, this figure 79% is the overfit hypercarry. So I'm already giving him his best percentage here. Okay, so let's talk about the refinement difference. Again, it's about the same. In fact, it's lower. This time around, it's 14 to 16 instead of 16 to 18 on VVV. So I'm not going to go through again the reference figures from our previous math. But basically, I definitely would not recommend getting R5. C6 R1 will be where our personal slot and where I'll recommend wheels to start as well. Unless you are Megaloton, you want to go C6 R5, by all means go ahead. It's your money. Okay? But if you're a C6 R5, I don't think you'll be getting much value. If you're someone who always C6 R5 your character, I don't think you'll be getting much value in my in this particular video. Unless you just want to know what you're getting, what value you're getting. Like, you don't mind spending the money, but you just want to know what value you're getting, then yeah, maybe this is still helpful. Let's look at VapeEC next. VapeEC, we will look at this as well. So HOD 2TM. In fact, now you see that the percentage is lower on C0, C6, 141%, but it's still more than Yae Kagura's 126%. Due to the already high DPS at C0 in VapeEC, where we're doing forward vapes for Yelan in the first rotation, the percentage boost from Constellation does go smaller, but it's still pretty significant because it's a percentage thingy. When your C0 is so high, as you go for up high, right, it's not going to be increased by that much. Otherwise, it should be way too OP. Okay, so there is a bit of diminishing returns, but if you look at the percentage figures, it's still considered good. It's still better than the other characters that we have done Constellation comparison before so far. Okay, so same thing, 2HOD 2TM is the best artifact build in VapeEC. C1's boost is 20% compared to 28% in Taser. Now, percentage wise, this is starting to be lower than a typical C6, but it's still really good. Okay, 20% is still really good for a Constellation, generally speaking. C2 is also very nice at 16%. C3 drops to 7% since we are not vaping her Q procs. Unlike in the VapeEC and the Taser, we are getting 10%. Here is 7%. C4 is 12%, up from the 6% previously on the Taser, since the HP boost gets amplified by forward vapes on her E, and 1 CA in C0. Yeah, it varies a little based on the Constellation, the rotation, so do check out that VapeEC guide if you want to. C5 is still the worst Constellation, but it has improved from 2 to 6% since we are mostly forward vaping her E's, and C5 increases her E talent level by 3. C6 gives you a 36% boost, because you can only do 1 forward vape out of the 5 normal attack BBs, breach bulbs. So C0 C6 is still a very impressive 141% in VapeEC, especially considering how high her C0 figures are. Okay, so yeah, it's pretty good. She's doing pretty well in terms of Constellation value. So R1 to R5 is over here, and what we have is still the same, 14 to 16%. So exact same conclusion. Basically, don't get R5, it's not worth it. C6 R1 for wheels. Megalodons, please go ahead and get your C6 R5, or if you're a mega wheel who doesn't care about the cost as well. So yep. Okay, so conclusion. Yelan's constellations provide the highest value I've seen so far, based on the characters I've done, and I've shared, right, for the reference what have been the past few characters, the past few new characters, what are their constellation values like, especially cumulatively from C0, C6. And the best thing about Yelan's constellation is that her constellation, the high value from constellations are actually not, it's not all unlocked behind it's not all locked behind C6. Because for example, for Ayato, it is locked behind his C6. His C6 has the biggest value, while the constellation before that are pretty low in value. A lot of them are like less than 10%. But for Yelan, her C1 and C2 has really good value. I mean, even Sacrificial Bow, if you're using Sacrificial Bow, obviously C0 C1 value is lower, and I already shared that, right? It's about 13%, 1-3. 1-3 is definitely lower than than the rest of the percentage that you've seen so far. So whether you want to get that 13% is really up to you. But that 13%, I actually don't think is, how should I put it? If you're using Sacrificial Bow, right, you might be better off saving, especially given the fact that we have Sumeru coming. Just do a C0 with a Sacrificial Bow. But if you don't want to use Sacrificial Bow, then you can go for R1. It's just that at C1 in VV Vape at least, the Sacrificial Bow is still the best. But in Taser and the VapeEC, there will be some movements based on that. Okay. So remember, C4 doesn't give her too much of a boost, but it provides bonus HP to her entire team, which is great for HP scaling characters like Hu Tao. Her only bad constellation is C5, but that's typical for most characters anyway. Even with high value from constellations, her C0 still performs pretty well, especially in Taser and VapeEC. So just in case you think that she's someone you need to wheel on, I actually don't think so. I think she's still able to do well at C0, but the most important thing is that we need to test her Heizou application, whether or not she's able to allow Hu Tao to vape consistently. Because in theory, right, she also applies 1U just like Xingqiu's Q. But Xingqiu's rain swords, when it actually touches enemy, it applies Heizou as well. So there's that. You see, that's that factor over there. So anyway, let's see how that goes. I'll definitely test her out, so don't pull for her until I test her out and we see whether or not she can truly allow Hu Tao to consistently vape. For Yomiya, I don't think it's a problem in the first place because Yomiya only vapes on N1, N3, N5 in her string. So there is a gap, so I don't think it's that bad for Yomiya. But yep, that's it. So in VV Vape, her C0 Aqua is actually slightly lower than even C0 Ayato with Haran. Okay? Because we invest way too much stats into ER. Unfortunately, but that's required. Okay? But the good news is that Sacrificial Boy is really close to Aqua at C0, so her performance at C0 with 4-star weapon is actually better than other 5-star C0 with 4-star weapon. So that's great news for F2P players. Now, if you have watched my previous Ayato constellation comparison and you followed my recommendation to not invest in Ayato's constellations, that's good because your resources can now be spent on Yelan. But as always, do wait a couple days after Yelan release to see the actual in-game performance as well. See me test out the rotations too. I mean, this is what I always do, right? Every single math guide, we go into a lot of detail, we do a lot of math guides, and when the character is released, we will test out the rotation, see if it matches what we have assumed when we do all these pre-release math guides. Okay? I'm very excited to try her out, and I hope that she turns out as good as what I have been analyzing. Let's talk about her refinement. R1 to R5. So generally speaking, R1 to R5 is not worth it because it's 14 to 18%. So that's actually pretty low for R1 to R5. I mean, you look at Ayato's Haran, it's actually good. But the problem is, R1 to R5, even if it's good at 24 to 25%, still worse off than going from C0 to C6. So yeah, compared to C0 to C6, R1 to R5 is always worse. Okay, R1 to R5 is usually something to consider after you've got the C6. Let me put it that way. At least for 5-star weapons. Well, that is the end of our constellation comparison video here. I hope this has been helpful in offering you a view on the constellation value. Especially me giving an additional information on the Sacrificial Bow as well in the analysis. Sacrificial Bow's constellation values, because these constellation values are based on Aqua. Okay, let's make that clear. Now, in terms of the Yelan video series, we pretty much finished everything that we wanted to do. Now, the next video will just be a math guide summary or cheat sheet. Okay. Yeah, so let me know If there's any other questions that you guys may have, you can show support / appreciation via super thanks, which I recently unlocked, and I'll be sure to reply to every super thanks comment as well, because it's going to be highlighted, so it's going to be very, very obvious. It's highlighted for everyone to see. And you can also join me over at Twitch. This is the Twitch link, and it's in the description as well. So thanks everyone for watching. If you like the content, remember the video and click subscribe for more. Yelan Math summary is coming next. Okay, bye.